Alright guys, today I'm going to give you the tools and advice to make the best duo leveling comp for the hardcore challenge and in the future for hardcore servers when they are released. And this video will also help you to understand what makes a good trio comp if you're going down that route. Now when it comes to trying to make a comp, I think these are the most important topics to consider. Firstly, buff synergy, gear overlap and can professions fix that overlap, and then lastly, downtime and efficiency. And I'm going to finish off the video with some of my personal recommendations of some really good duo comps that you can go for. Buff synergy is very important to increase player power. The faster you kill the mobs, the safer it will be when taking on multiple enemies, and in the long run leveling will be more efficient. Buff synergy isn't also just about increasing power, but also survivability. This synergy is normally better in melee comps because there's just more buffs in the game that benefit melee DPS, and these are also available normally very low level. For example, a paladin and a warrior are great together because of battle shout and Blessing of Might stacking together. A shaman can also go well into melee comps because of Wind Fury Totem and the Strength of the Earth Totem. Buffing classes also go very well with pet classes like the Warlock or Hunter because you are effectively getting the buff twice. And on top of buffs, healing is also very strong. Most god tier comps are going to have a hybrid class in them with a DPS. It's either going to be that or a double hybrid comp or a hybrid and a pet class. And also don't forget the Hunter and Warlock combo, which is also very strong just simply because pet classes are ridiculously strong at leveling in classic WoW. Some of my favourite comps for buff synergy are Paladin Druid, Shaman Warrior and also Druid Hunter. By the way guys, if you're looking for a really quick guide on how to just totally max the graphics in the game way beyond ultra settings that you can do by default, I've got a written guide on how to do this. All you have to do is go to my subscriber only trailer and check the description of the video on there. The second thing to consider is gear overlap. Gear is a real problem for most classes playing the hardcore challenge, especially right now when the rules state that you cannot use the auction house. There simply isn't a lot of good gear from quests, which is why dungeon runs are so desirable by players doing the challenge. A lot of the time you are relying on good RNG drops for greens, and obviously when leveling in the open world, this can be a big potential problem if both of you need the gear that drops. For example, a priest leveling with a warlock at first glance seems like a really good comp because of their synergy, but you'll be fighting a lot over gear. Imagine if a really good robe drops with loads of great intellect and shadow spell power on it, and then you kinda goosed because, well, only one of you can use it. This issue can be mitigated by having one player do tailoring to craft gear for you both, but obviously this takes time and effort. So hopefully the hardcore servers will allow people to use the auction house to get good gear pieces, and therefore gear crafting professions will be much less viable, and therefore the optimal play will just be to make as much gold as you can while leveling so you can buy gear off the auction house. But I digress, gear overlap can be a real issue, particularly if you're fighting over weapons and wands. Good examples of comps that have good synergy but low gear overlap are Druid Priest, Druid Warlock and Mage Paladin. And some bad examples are Paladin and Warrior. They're going to be fighting over all gear that drops and the weapons. My advice here would be for the Warrior to go dual wield obviously. Shaman Rogue isn't great because you're going to be fighting over gear and weapons. And then Druid Rogue, you're fighting over absolutely everything pretty much. I mean, even though a Shaman can use mail and a Rogue can't, it doesn't mean there will be no gear upgrades for the Shaman that are going to be leather gear, so it's another thing to consider. It's not the end of the world if you have some gear overlap, because at the end of the day, if hardcore servers are going to allow us to use auction houses, it definitely won't be a huge problem, but it is just something to consider. In my opinion, the best comps are the ones that have really good synergy, but also low gear competition. And the last important topic to consider is efficiency. For example, a warrior's main problem when leveling in vanilla is having to stop and eat between pulls. But this issue can be fixed if a druid can throw some cheeky hots onto the warrior so he doesn't need to stop and eat as much. A caster's main problem is usually mana, but a paladin can improve the efficiency of a caster with Blessing of Wisdom. Bigger health pools also mean players won't have to stop and eat so much, which is why a druid and priest go well together because they have two buffs to increase their stamina. But let me conclude with some of my top recommendations for duo comps. I think my personal favourite has to be the druid and paladin. With this comp you have 2 attack power buffs, Blessing of Might and Heart of the Wild. Since the druid will be mostly in cat form, he will barely use mana to deal damage, so his mana pool can be used to top you both up. You obviously have 2 classes that can heal, which is insane for survivability. There's very low gear overlap as the paladin would prefer weapon damage weapons over stat sticks, and will go for mail and plate gear over leather gear. Though strength is good for a feral druid, for the benefit of you both and the druid will focus on agility gear and a paladin on strength. Since a paladin has righteous fury, you can hold aggro better, and therefore the feral druid can use shred more often for more damage. You also both have movement speed buffs. You can stack Thorns and Ret Aura together. You have great CC like Hammer of Justice, Bash, Root and Repentance. Honestly, you really cannot go wrong with this comp. Druid Warrior is also nice for similar reasons. Warlock Hunter for obvious reasons. Druid and Paladin also go well with Hunters and Warlocks. And the Mage and a Paladin can be very overpowered, but you have to really wait until around about level 40 because that's when both the Mage and a Paladin can do very good AoE. And obviously for the same reasons, Double Mage is pretty overpowered. I just wouldn't really recommend, well, it's just my personal preference anyway, to do AoE leveling in the hardcore challenge because leveling slower and safer is always much smarter. Plus it kind of defeats the purpose of a hardcore challenge. It's supposed to be a challenge that encourages you to explore the world more and experience more of the open world content rather than just rushing it. Warrior and Shaman's also very nice, but obviously there is a gear competition issue there. But anyway, hopefully now you have the information to help you make a better decision on what comp to go for when leveling in the duo hardcore challenge. My name is MetaGoblin. Until my next video, ciao.